Stuart, here we go again. How optimistic are you for the new season?
I'm always optimistic. Everything I do, I'm looking forward to it. That's what I will say. Really looking forward to it. I think we've got a group of players and a football club in general that are looking forward to the start of the season. It's been well documented how quick that turnaround has been and all the rest of it. But I think the quicker you get that in your head and you realise that's the situation you're in, then the quicker you start to look forward to the chaos which is Scottish football. But I think we all enjoy it. I think we all love it. Supporters, media, managers, players alike. I think we all enjoy it. So I just think that we have to embrace the new season like everybody else. And as always, we go in with goals and we go in with aspirations of having that real strong season. I think if I cast my mind back to last season, I don't want to keep speaking about it, but what we have to do is we have to use the positives of what we had last season. It doesn't give you any guarantees, but what I think it does show is that we can be a good football club and that we can compete with many teams in this division. As difficult as that will be, we have to show ourselves and believe within ourselves that that's the opportunity that presents itself. So going to Dens Park to play against the newly promoted side is something that we undoubtedly look forward to.
You mentioned the goals and aspirations, Stuart. What are they for you?
Again, I'm very clear that I want to kind of keep this in house. I'm very much a person that wants to keep it in house, and it's not to shy away from anything. And I've seen situations where people start shouting their mouth off and start telling people what they're going to get and what they're going to do. And I suppose there's a bit of admiration from me within that. But it doesn't really concern me who else believes what we're going to do. It doesn't really concern me about telling everybody what we're going to do as a group or what we're striving to achieve. The one thing I can tell you is that the goals from myself, the staff and the players are high. We believe that we can push boundaries, but again, I just think you set yourself up for a fall. It's only my take on it, it's only how I look at the situation, but to be fair, I think if you listen to things I've said over a number of years as a manager, I've been very consistent in that as well, so that's how I work. That's how I think. I touched on Kevin Van Veen last year and he was telling you guys how many goals he would score. I think that's okay on an individual basis. I think collectively we just have to keep our thoughts in house and just make sure that we are doing the right things in here, and hopefully people start to see that as time goes on.
Obviously there's been changes to your squad. How do you feel the squad's at?
Yeah, listen, again, I'll say that we feel that we can add more additions. I think if we look at what our bench is going to be this Saturday, we're going to be relatively short in options and short in experience. I don't think there's any doubt in that. I'm not shying away from it. Again, I'm not scared of it. It's not something that overly phases me, but we would like to try and get one or two players back fit and on the pitch. We were dealt a couple of injuries within the group section there in the Viaplay Cup. And on top of that, we want to go and make sure that we're adding players, because I've been very vocal on the young lads and some of the young players that have been everywhere with us over pre-season, have had good game time competitively and in friendlies. So some of the guys are getting closer to being ready, and some of the guys are short, but sometimes being short at the age of 16 isn't a major catastrophe. So we just have to ensure that if a good player comes out the team, that we're putting in somebody that's not just a good player but somebody that is ready in age and experience, and I'm not exposing people to situations that they're maybe not ready for in their career, because that can be detrimental as well.
How do you replace the goals? Because that's going to be a big question over your leadership here. Yeah, no, it's a tough one, Peter. It's always going to be hard. For a striker that scores 29 goals, they don't grow on trees. Kevin Van Veen never necessarily came to the football club as a 29 goal a season striker. It was a remarkable achievement. I need to think overall, not just in the striker position, how we try and adjust, how we try and provide goals, assists from other areas of the pitch, how we chip in, and also with the players that we have here, how can we eke out a little bit more from some of the guys in terms of their numbers? What is their role within the team? I'll use the likes of John Abika, for example. John had a definitive role within our team when he was playing as a strike partner with Kevin. So maybe that alters at times, maybe that changes some of the positions he takes up, which gives him greater opportunity. And as well as one or two new players coming into the group and into the squad, Connor Wilkinson coming in. Connor would be a guy that will back himself to score goals in this league, as difficult as that will be. And I also think that we've got good quality in other areas, midfield areas, set plays, all those types of things. It's certainly something I've been thinking about since Kevin left for Groningen. But again, we knew the situation. There's no point
point in me sitting here feeling sorry for myself or for the football club. Kevin was terrific, but you know, I wish him all the best at Groningen. It's really important that we find the best version now with the tools that we have.
This will be the first season where people say, well, this is Stuart Kettlewell's side. What can the Motherwell fans expect?
I think fundamentally what I would expect is for them to see hopefully what they seen in the first game against St Mirren, when I cast my mind back sort of 5-6 months ago, whatever it was, in February, when we played against St Mirren, and the fundamentals were always the most important part for me. Thought that we were organised, I thought we were disciplined, I thought we were exceptionally hard to play against, and that's where it starts. And I always talk about adding on layers. I don't think you can be anything in football at a club like Motherwell, with a group of players and the staff that we've got. I don't think we can be anything else. If we don't show the right reaction, the right response to any moment in the game, to any scenario off the pitch, if we're not disciplined, if we don't show that receptive nature to what the game plan is, because there's always a game plan, there's always an idea of how we want to address each specific game, there's always non-negotiables, all the things that I've spoke about, Peter, for the last several months, then we have to be all of those things, and only at that point can we start to talk about the kind of tactical edge, can we start to talk about the quality that happens in the final third. If we don't have that, we've no foundation, we've no base. So that's what I would expect everybody to see in day one.
You said you were light. How many do you think you need? And for the fans who are waiting and saying, is there anyone imminent?
No, again, that is all going to be subject to change. I'm not going to put a definitive number on what else we can bring to the football club. Again, I've been really transparent, and I'll say it again, that we've always had to move players out before we can move players in. I've not been sitting with a blank canvas where I can go and bring in as many players as I want, but that's the situation. And I think I'd sort of touched on that. If you actually look back, I'd said that before the season finished last year. I think I actually said it within the split games. So I'm not going to put a number on it. That depends on a lot of other factors and a lot of other things. I do think that we're light and still in a couple of areas, and I would like to strengthen. And as I say, that is going to be determined with some exits as well as what we can do coming in.
Just one final question. On the basis of what happened last year, are you hoping that maybe managers or chairmen and owners and chief executives can show a little bit more faith in the managers before we get to this 4 or 5 games and people calling for their head?
Yeah, Peter, I do. I've not to fend off and look after myself. I just think that football is so knee-jerk. I just think it is so reactive to, I listen to friends and family sometimes, and depending on one pass defines you as a player, it defines you as a manager. A goalkeeper lets one in, everybody points and looks at the goalkeeping coach and says, what have you been doing with him all week, and all those types of things. I've never been a knee-jerk guy, and I just think that there's so many examples recently across Europe, probably, in other leagues, where there's been faith shown in managers, and there's been a trust, and there's been a backing from the supporters, from the chief execs and the chairman and all of that, and there's some clubs that have reaped the benefit from it. And always going back to this factor, and again, this isn't just purely on me, this is a general point. If you show the faith in that person initially, and you're sold the dream of what their vision is and what they want to do and how they're going to transform your football club, that one result can't just have that knee-jerk reaction to everything's wrong, and there's not going to be any success here. And I suppose what you need to look at as well is what's the bigger picture, what is the bigger plan. Sometimes success is longer term, be it player development, be it understanding where you are with a group of players for a certain period of time, but where do you think that can maybe evolve to over the course of a season or 18 months. But listen, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that there is a results driven business. I've been at the receiving end of that. I've spoken to you off the receiving end of that. It's tough, it's challenging, but again, I wouldn't be sitting here if I was scared of that factor, and I dare say the managers across Scotland are the exact same. So I would like a wee bit more time and a wee bit more faith in people from that initial conversation that you have with representatives of the football club. But ultimately, we as managers don't get to decide that, and I think that the only way you can be sure is if your team's performing and you're getting results, and again, I look forward to try and delivering on that.
Stuart, just one from me, looking ahead to the weekend. Excuse me, obviously it's Dens Park. When you see the fixture list come through, opening game away at the team's just been promoted, do you think, oh, that's a tough game, it's their first game back, it's going to be bouncing there, or do you think, perfect, that's the kind of fixture we want? How do you look at it, and what do you expect from from Dundee?
I don't really look into the context of, you know, a promoted team. I don't really look into the surrounding fact that I look very much at the new manager coming in, obviously Tony Docherty coming in. I think it's a shrewd appointment from Dundee. I think a lot of us will agree on that. Somebody that knows the game inside out, somebody that spent so much time at a high end of the game, has been an assistant, and now gets his chance to go on and be a manager. And I think, as I say, most football people, if you like, would acknowledge and nod and say that's a sensible choice, that's a clever appointment. So I look more into that. I look more into, you know, having come up against Derek McInnes and Tony Docherty in the past. I look at that. I look at the players that they've recruited. I'm not so much looking at it's Flag Day for Dundee and the side effects that can come from that. I think it's just important that we brace ourselves as much as we possibly can. Is what are they going to be? How are they going to play? What questions are they going to ask of us? And how can we try and expose them at the other end? It's a massive football club. I think we can see in the transfer window the number of players that they've been able to bring in, the finance that's been thrown at them. You know, I'm looking at Trevor Carson coming in and fees paid and all that sort of stuff. So there seems as if there's good resource, which suggests to me that they're bringing in good players and guys that can operate in the Premiership level. So I look more at those factors than the other things, as I say, such as promoted. And I would imagine that Dundee will go and acquit themselves and look very much like a Premiership side, and therefore we have to be at our absolute best to be able to go and compete with them on Saturday.
Strikers corner, and then John Abika.
Yeah, John's struggling. We've had him back in the grass this week. He had a bit of a niggle in his hamstring against Queen's Park, so that was a wee bit of a blow. But as I say, we've had him back on the grass this week. It's just a question of whether he's going to be ready or not. Conor Wilkinson obviously had a real bad gash just above his eye, but again, fortunately, he's been training this week, and we hope that he'll be fine. There's no question of concussion or anything like that off the back of it, so it's just more the actual wound itself, but it looks as if he's going to be okay.
Obviously, you signed Theo Bair midweek, and he said last week might have to sign players who maybe haven't had the greatest of seasons. I think, you know, Theo didn't quite make the impact at St Johnstone he would have wanted to. What have you seen in him to encourage you that you can get maybe more out of him?
Yeah, again, I think I think probably my history as an individual, not just as a player but as a coach, I've always been somebody that looks for the people that need a second chance and the people that have room for growth. It's been a huge part of my makeup, my mentality for many years. The player I'll use, and I did last week as well when somebody asked me, when I was at Ross County, we'd sign Ross Stewart from St Mirren. Hadn't kicked the ball really wasn't a pick or somebody they thought about playing at the time. And again, I'm not trying to heap this pressure on Theo, but what I'm trying to say is that I think if you'd scoured the country and asked anybody would they want to take Ross Stewart in the top flight round about that time, the answer would have been no. So listen, I understand that people might doubt the fact that Theo's had one goal in his time at St Johnstone and maybe a limited game time, but I think it's safe to say that I see and the staff see something in Theo that we think is going to connect with how we play, and I think that will be a success in the Premiership. You've got to hang your hat on something, and very much I'm hanging my hat on Theo Bair, and I think that there's loads of room for growth. It's kind of a development signing, if you like, in the sense that we know that he's not sitting here as the finished article. Theo will have a bit of frustration himself in his time at St Johnstone, but it's now my job and Theo's job to go and try and prove essentially doubters wrong, and I'll take that all day long. I'm sure he will as well. And one thing that I enjoy doing is proving people wrong. If there's a doubt in that signing, if there's a doubt in the individual, then it's my job to go and try and give him the facility and the tools to try and accelerate his career and try and go and prove to people that he can play and score goals in the Premiership in Scotland. And you know what, everybody knows where they'll point the finger if that's not a success, but you know, I'm quietly confident that Theo comes in and adds a real bit of quality and several aspects to our team that starts to become a success.
So overall team use just those two? Yeah,
we've got Harry Payton come off against East Fife on Saturday, John Obika, and those two are definite doubts for Saturday. As much as we'll have them on the grass, I'm not sure if they'll be ready for the game on Saturday.
Just one from me, Stuart. How important is it to you after your start on Saturday?
It's massive. Again, trying to keep that momentum going that we spoke about from last season, but even through pre-season, we've been winning games in pre-season. We won our group, so I think it's essential that you don't sit and think to yourself that you're going to take 3 or 4 games to get up to speed and get off and running. We're certainly going in with even though we're away from home, even though we'll be facing a good side, we want to go and try and start off the campaign with 3 points, as does every team. And the quicker we can do that, the better position you put yourself on early.